Hello. Today we'll be going over teaching science with successful methods, especially to students who are English language learners. I am your host, Adam Hernandez. The first method we'll be going over is using authentic language. It is important to note that the textbooks are usually written by PhDs. This can be difficult for students, particularly English language learners, to comprehend. Translating the text to everyday speech is very helpful for student comprehension. For example, a textbook might define mitosis as part of the cell cycle process by which chromosomes in the nucleus are separated into two identical sets of chromosomes, each in its own nucleus. A more palatable definition for a student may be, mitosis is a stage during the cell cycle where two identical daughter cells are produced from an original cell. It is important to remember that authentic language means just that. It is in this way that English language learners can acquire both an understanding of the subject area material and English language. The next method is encouraging higher order thinking. This method allows students to make connections with prior knowledge. This will allow the student to deepen their knowledge of the material and promotes critical thought and self-motivation. An example of this method in action would be during an experiment. For instance, students have just finished an experiment on enzymes and temperature and have determined that enzyme activity increases with temperature. The teacher could then ask them how this relates to enzymes in their bodies and how changes in pH would affect enzymes. This sort of questioning encourages thought and facilitates the conceptualization of the material. The next method is particularly useful to English language learners. It is the use of graphs and visual aids when teaching a difficult subject. Material presented in graphs or visuals is simpler for students to store in long-term memory, and for English language learners especially, it helps in acquiring content area understanding and language proficiency. For instance, you can use this method with a concept such as photosynthesis. Start with sunlight and plants, add water and air, and you get delicious food for the plants. Using this method for a complicated mechanism such as photosynthesis will allow students, including English language learners, to gain equal understanding of the concept. Another important method is cooperative learning and interactive activities. This method allows students to work together and build knowledge from a shared experience. Making the groups heterogeneous with respect to English language proficiency would also be a benefit for English language learners to practice their oral language skills. Lastly is negotiating meaning and acceptance of errors. Constant correction of students may discourage them. English language learners especially may lose the willingness to speak up for fear of being wrong. For example, a student may give an answer such as covalent bond, when the answer was polar covalent bond. The teacher should praise the student, then ask a question where the response is nonpolar covalent bond and distinguish between the two. And so we conclude our presentation. Thank you very much for watching.